Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Leeds series. The city of Leeds is one of the 5 metropolitan boroughs of West Yorkshire. 38 civil parishes lie within its boundaries. Which slice of the city are we seeing today? Welcome back to Leeds, everybody. Now this morning I'm starting on top of a massive hill which overlooks a valley. Now this is called Surprise View. If you come up here, this is the view you'll be treated to. Look at this. Isn't this fantastic? The hill I'm standing on is called the Chevin and it overlooks that town which we're going to be walking around in a few moments, and that town is Otley. This Leeds video is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find her link in the description. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. With 3 to go in Leeds, today we're visiting Otley, a market town located at a bridging point on the River Wharfe, which splits the place into 2 parts. Otley's name means Otto's clearing, deriving from the Saxon personal name Otto and the word Lee, which means a woodland clearing in Old English. It was recorded as Othelia in the Domesday Book. Overlooking the town is a massive hill called the Chevin, the name of which derives from the Welsh word Cefn, which means ridge. Otley has been industrially important for centuries. As well as farming, the quarrying of stone and the manufacture of potash used to make soap took place here. Soon the textile trade, which was once little more than a cottage industry here, developed rapidly. Textile mills were built which harnessed the power of the River Wharfe. Although the mills have now been converted to other uses, it's still a busy town. It's famous for a printing press, a man called Thomas Chippendale, and of course the Bramhope Tunnel Memorial, which we mentioned back in the Bramhope episode. Watchers of Emmerdale will be familiar with Otley, although they'll know it by a different name. In the soap, it's referred to as the fictional town of Hotton. There's no way we could have covered all of this one, it's far too big. Here though is what we did. We begin on top of the Chevin at Surprise View, often cited wrongly as the highest point on the hill. Its highest point is in fact Beacon Hill. Popular with walkers, the Chevin is pretty much unavoidable if you visit Otley. Otley sits in a valley and this huge gritstone escarpment rises above the town to the south, providing some excellent views. It once had a quarry where the foundation stones for the Houses of Parliament were obtained. The hill has proved vital to Otley's very existence too. It's provided stone for its buildings, stone for the millstones in the textile mills, as well as bracken for the soap. The Turner painting, Snowstorm, Hannibal and his army crossing the Alps, is reputed to have been inspired by a view of the Chevin. Parts of this huge hill used to belong to a local landowner, Walter Fawkes. After World War II, these areas were donated as a memorial to those from the Wharfe Valley who lost their lives during the war. Now let's get down off this hill and into the town.
Yes, Father of Prince Richard.
So here's something topical. Our parking space here in Otley is Prince Henry Road. There we go. Prince Henry Road. I'll get a bit closer to the sign just to prove to you it is Prince Henry Road. And as I was driving up here, myself and Nikki were having a little chat about who is Prince Henry. Now,
Well,
apparently there are two. Do you want to explain?
Yep. So Prince Harry, the current Duke of Sussex, he was actually born Prince Henry Charles Albert David, to be precise. But I think that this road is named after Prince Henry, the Duke of Gloucester, who is the current Duke of Gloucester's father, or who was the current Duke of Gloucester's father.
Hey, the more you know, eh?
I know.
But it doesn't refer to him either. I'll explain who it does refer to later. Our route begins in Wharf Meadows Park, to the north of the river, where you get a brilliant view of Otley Weir. The park has more than a few landmarks. One of them is the former Otley Lido. Opened in 1924, the pool was closed and filled in 1993, and it's currently derelict. However, a group called the Friends of Otley Lido, or Fools for short, are trying to restore this. It would be great to see it open again. Next is a sundial, most unlike any you've ever seen. This is what's known as a double polar mean time sundial. It's complicated to explain how it works, but this was a gift to Otley from the Sam Chippendale Foundation. Opposite that, there's a sandstone sculpture created by Shane Green of the Wharfedale Press, a printing machine invented and manufactured in Otley in the 19th century. It was placed here for the Diamond Jubilee of Queen Elizabeth II. Okay, now it's a walk over the bridge to the other side, and we're going to walk down the other side of the river now towards the next major landmark, which is an old mill. Now, on this bridge, I've noticed quite a few padlocks. I don't think we've ever seen one of these bridges before, but they are quite common. These padlocks are what's called love locks. There's a bridge in Bakewell in Derbyshire that's absolutely full of them. It's got that many of them. I'm surprised the bridge isn't collapsing under the weight of them.
A lot in Europe as well.
They are a popular thing, aren't they? Once over the river, we're in Tittybottle Park, and yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. It gets its name from Victorian times, when nursemaids who served well-to-do families would bring their infants here to feed them. Next up is Garnett's Mill, and this was not a textile mill, rather it was a paper mill. Its history stretches back some 300 years. A lot of the former mill site was demolished in 2013 to make way for a new 194 home development. After a walk down North Avenue, we're at the former Otley Civic Centre. Designed by Charles Fowler of Leeds, this was built in 1871 and used to be the base of Otley Town Council. It's currently empty, but it will soon be apartments. And the last time we saw one of these was way back in Barwick-in-Elmet. Opposite the Civic Centre is a huge maypole located on Manchester Square. Erected in 1962, this is 75 feet long, although 8 feet of it is underground. So you can tell you're in West Yorkshire because there's plenty of these little ginnels all over the place. These are quite cute, actually, I think. You know, these little paths that go between buildings like this, because you never know where they go. So this one brings us out on our next street. You've got a nice view of Nikki's head there, the back of Nikki's head.
I hope it's only the back of my head.
The Ginnel takes us to Crow Lane. This is where we find an old chapel. It's the house you can see on the left of your screen. Here's where we need to mention Thomas Constable, the man behind some other buildings we've yet to come across. Constable was responsible for funding the building of the original St Joseph's School. That's this building almost next door. It opened in 1861. In 1870, his sister Mary paid for an extension on the same site. The current school is on the other side of the town centre. And speaking of the town centre, we're now making our way towards it. Check out this lovely cobbled street. This is part of Gay Lane, which turns left and becomes a main road up to the Chevin. On the corner where it does so is Chevin's service station. This is looking south with the Chevin in the background. We're going along Bongate next, where there's a bakery, and Nikki popped in to see what they had. So what have you got from the bakery then, Mrs?
Right, so I got some eggs.
Eggs?
Free-range local eggs.
Okay.
I've got a Yorkshire curd tart.
Oh wow!
Which the girls will love. It's like a sweet flan. And then I got also some croissants, because the village idiot does like a croissant in the morning.
He does indeed.
And that is from Bongate Bakery here in Otley. And as well, I noted on the door that they also support the Too Good To Go scheme, which is to reduce food waste.
Bondgate Bakery, folks, well worth a look if you're close by. Bondgate also has the town's fire station, which has been here in its current location since 1956. The station covers Otley, Menston, Weston and Asquith. Over the road is a small garden where the War Memorial is. All Saints Church, which we're heading for shortly, contains the remains of 2 early Anglo-Saxon crosses. One of those was reproduced for the town's War Memorial. There are 20 pubs in Otley. Here's a Wetherspoons called the Bowling Green. Originally erected in 1757, its upper storey was once the town's assembly rooms. The Bowling Green Inn took over the whole building in 1825. Otley is not short of a supermarket or two. It has an Asda, a Waitrose and a large Sainsbury's, the latter of which is located off Bondgate. This wasn't originally part of our route, but it became so, as I'm about to explain. Now, one advantage, of course, to being in a town, it means you can go into somewhere like Sainsbury's for a toilet break, and that's where we're going now. Next, the white building across the road is the Woolpack Music and Arts Studio. This is run by community musicians Richard Sawley and Jennifer Pugh. In 2009, Pugh toured with Corinne Bailey-Ray as a rhythm guitarist and a backing vocalist. It was only a matter of time before the name of famous cabinet maker and interior designer Thomas Chippendale came up on our walk. Born in Otley, this cafe, Chippendale's Tea Rooms, was once the house where he lived. And here we are at All Saints Church. Otley's first church, built in the 7th century, was made of wood and it burnt down. The present building is based on a Norman church from the 12th century, but little of the original remains. Substantial alterations were made to the building in the 13th, 14th and 18th centuries, and the clock on its tower dates from 1793. Inside, there's a tomb which has effigies of the MP Thomas Lord Fairfax and his wife. Get this, a church entrance with automatic doors. We are definitely going up in the world. Alright, let's have a look inside here. Now, I'm expecting there's going to be, somewhere in here, a book of condolence.
There is, I'm going to go inside.
For the Queen. Have you spotted it?
It's down there.
It's down here. Oh yeah, I can see it. So we'll do this first, and then we'll have a look around the church.
Well, actually, I'll do this while you go and have a look around the church, because
Okay.
this is a private moment.
Okay, well, there's the book of condolence for the Queen. I'll leave that in your capables, and we'll have a look around. So, this is quite a wide church. As well as automatic doors, it's got modern seating. There's no pews here. There are a couple of pews on the back walls, over here and over here. It's a beautiful rood screen. How about that? Let's have a wander into the chancel. It's very quiet in here. Look at that for a gorgeous bit of stained glass. The church was given Grade 1 listed status in 1951. In the churchyard we have the Navvies Memorial. If you can remember the Bramhope episode, this here is the memorial to the 24 men who died during the building of the Bramhope Tunnel. It's a replica of the North Portal, the one I stood extremely close to, so this felt a little surreal. As well as the tunnel workers, the Navvies Memorial is dedicated to thousands of others who helped build the nation's railways. Now we're in Kirkgate Arcade, the first of a few shopping areas in Otley Town Centre. This is a Victorian arcade and it's worth a visit just to look up and see its old glass ceiling, quirky architecture and a painting of the Chevin. It was back out to Kirkgate next. The pubs continue. Here's Whitakers, which dates from 1811. Under this pub, there's a series of underground passages. One mysteriously leads to All Saints Church, but no one knows exactly why. So it's a town, and I have no chance obviously of catching every single shop and business and pub and everything else that this place has got, but you know, I can give you a good flavour of what's here. So this is Kirkgate, one of the streets here, and we're about to go into New Inn Court, where there's a little shopping arcade. Nicky's already gone miles ahead of me, Here we are, entrance to the New Inn Court shop. So let's see what we've got down here. Shops, public toilets and bus station all along here. Got a health store here. There's a barber's shop just in front of me. It's like a proper Aladdin's cave, this. Or it feels like it. I imagine it's one of those streets that not many people walk up as a general rule, because people stick mainly to the main roads, don't they? And to the market, which we're about to come into. Got a jewellery shop here. There's a sign above this one, this osteopaths. Look, New Inn Court, Otley. There's a date underneath it. It's, I can't read it. 1989. 1989. It's not going to be here. Not going to have been here since the 11th century, is it? So,
empty shops, so if you're looking for somewhere to come and trade.
Empty ones. Yeah. It's always bad to see empty shops, but then again, I see it mainly as an opportunity. So we're heading into the market, and seeing as this is a Saturday, it is a market day. So let's see what we've got on the market today. Here we go. It's not a very big marketplace, but yeah, it's worth having a look, I think. The marketplace is overlooked by the Jubilee clock, which was erected in 1888. There are some plaques on this. One is in memory of 2 locals killed in the Transvaal War. Another expresses the gratitude of Belgian refugees who came to Otley during World War I. Otley has had a market since at least 1227, but it's only been held in the current marketplace from about the year 1800. Many of the buildings around it are some of the town's oldest. One such building is the Black Bull pub. This 16th century pub is believed to be the oldest in Otley. On the eve of the Battle of Marston Moor, it's thought Cromwell's troops drank the pub dry. It's had more than a fair few discoveries over the years too, this place. Take for example in 2003, when a well and an 18th century water pump, which still worked, were found during a renovation. It was thought to be Otley's last surviving pump. Next, we walked along Market Street towards the bus station. So similar to New Inn Court, here we have Orchard Gate, which is another off the beaten track kind of area of the town centre. Card factory down here. Petwise. Shoecraft. Key cutting and shoe repairs, I assume. Here's Otley Town Council. Let's move on a bit further, out of people's way. It's getting quite busy now. It's about 9 o'clock now in the morning, so people are starting to emerge.
Can't get in people's way.
No. And this brings us to the bus station. Here we are, look, number 34, which runs to Leeds, straight in front of us. Which way? That way. Now we're heading down Boroughgate, one of Otley's major roads. This is the A659, which, as you know from previous episodes, used to be a turnpike. Travellers can avoid Otley these days by using the newer A660 Otley bypass, which runs to the south of the town. Just before we reach our next major landmark, we find a stone column, which is a World War I war memorial. This is in front of Trinity Methodist Church, built on Boroughgate in 1876. John Wesley was a frequent visitor to Otley in the 18th century. Allegedly, his horse died in the town and is buried in the grounds of All Saints Church. Its grave is marked by an unusual stone, known locally as the Donkey Stone. Here's the White Swan, just a few paces away from the church. Formerly known simply as the Swan, this too is one of Otley's oldest buildings. A former coaching inn, this was historically the last pub out of the town along the turnpike. So this is a very quiet street. There's certainly not as much traffic here than there was.
The market was just really busy.
It was, yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah, but I suppose on market day, that's what happens around here. People like markets, you know, people like chain stores. People like chain stores these days, but they also like markets still. You know, they're still quite a popular thing, even though they were first invented way back. People still do like a market.
Dying out, which is a terrible thing to see, but at least Otley maintains one, which is good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fantastic. Now our next landmark is a theatre of some description, somewhere up here on the right. I'm not totally sure where, but I'm sure we will find out shortly. This is the Otley Courthouse Theatre, which is the modern use for what was a redundant 19th century magistrates' court. It opened in May 2004 and it's gone from strength to strength ever since, providing a thriving arts and resource centre for the town. And it's not alone, it seems. Over the road we find the Otley Artworks. This is primarily a picture framers, although the sign outside saying gallery indicates this might well be an art gallery as well. Our walk then took us through a couple of car parks alongside the theatre, and we emerged on Cattle Market Street. The clue is in the name for that one. This is where we find some more religious buildings. This is the Bridge Church, which was originally the Salem Chapel. This was built in 1826, being for many years Otley's congregational church. It's had its present name since 1972, with the formation of the United Reformed Church. Are you having a moment, my dear?
I am. I'm resting my legs a minute on this lovely bench, which is for Bridget, because Sam loves her for eternity.
Sometimes those small things are just what make places places, I suppose.
Yeah.
Another church next. This is Our Lady and All Saints Roman Catholic Church, which was opened in 1851. This is the last church we'll see on our walk, but there are others, like for example Beech Hill Church, which opened in 2021. We're coming now onto Clapgate, and in doing so we pass the Royal Oak. This former pub dates from the 17th century. Its modern entrance is on Clapgate, but originally it was on Northgate, the old name for Bridge Street. Hidden away off Clapgate is Bay Horse Court, named for the Bay Horse pub. Check out these murals. These were painted in 2021 by members of the 6th form at Prince Henry's Grammar School. Aren't these beautiful? Speaking of Prince Henry's Grammar School, if we go back to Clapgate, where it adjoins Manor Square, we find the school's old premises. In its grounds is a statue of Thomas Chippendale. The man himself once attended this very school. So here's another royal connection with Otley. This is formerly the Royal White Horse Hotel, built in the 18th century, visited 1876 by HRH Duke of Connaught, from which it gained its royal prefix. Now if I just stand back a little bit, you can see the building in question. I can't go too far back because there's a railing behind me, but there you go. There is the former White Horse Hotel. And that's not the only old pub with a plaque on it close by. Now on Beech Hill, this building on the right next to the shopping arcade is the former Half Moon Inn. This closed in 1971 and it's now in retail use. At the top of Beech Hill is a mural. Now, due to sparse information, I'm not 100% sure with this. There are at least 2 of these in Otley as far as I can tell. They seem to have been designed by that man Shane Green again, to greet the Tour de France in 2014. I am, however, sure about this next thing. This is Manorgarth Park, just down from Mural. It's so named because the land it occupies was part of an extensive manor granted by King Athelstan to the See of York. The Archbishops of York had a palace located on the site occupied by Otley's manor house. Remains of the palace were found during the construction of the modern St Joseph's Primary School, which you can see here from the path through the park. So we're almost all the way around my planned route, because this path takes us back to the bridge over the River Wharfe. The river is sort of down there behind these trees. We sort of walk alongside it for a short way, cross back over the bridge and pick up the car. But of course we're not totally finished with this place just yet, because it's far too big to be finished with it just yet. I will be hopping into the car straight afterwards to drive around another area of the town up to the north. I forget what it's called offhand, but I will tell you when we get there. And then there are a couple of other things we still need to see to the south of the river. One of those is the cemetery, which you'll be taking a great interest in, I would have thought.
Yeah, like a mooch around a cemetery, Andy, you know me. Come on, I think the viewers know me as well. You know my theories on cemeteries and the stories that they tell.
Indeed, indeed. And before I do all that, today you're going to get an extra large picture bit. You're going to get one that's got 15 pictures in it as opposed to 5, just like I did with Morley and with Horsforth, because this place is so big. No, maybe 15, more. 15, 15. Well. 15, yeah, well I can include it as one as the 15, can't I? The wife has spoken again, you know. Anyway, today's picture bit, here it comes right now. So just before we go and see those other places which I was talking about before the picture bit, we've called in to this cafe which is at Wharf Meadows Park where we began, right here, and we're sitting in the sunshine, aren't we, Nikki? Here's what we've got. We've got coffee for Nikki, a slush for me because I'm a big kid. There's a piece of rocky road there for me, and is that a scone?
Yeah,
it's a scone. And there you go. This is the cafe in question. So now we're going for a drive around the north of the town, and we're beginning at Wharfedale Hospital. This is a relatively new hospital, having been officially opened by the Princess Royal in 2005. It's sited just to the west of the old facility. You've just seen the old Wharfedale Hospital at the end of the picture bit. That's now a block of flats. These are not the only hospitals Otley has ever had either. Beyond Cross Green there was once a leper hospital on the road to Harewood. I was supposed to be going to the entrance of the current Prince Henry's Grammar School next, but I took a wrong turn up Newell Carr Road. Mind you, this view wasn't bad. Despite the name of the school, Prince Henry's is now a state-funded academy. The school was founded by royal charter in 1607 by King James I. It was named after his son, Henry Frederick Stuart, who was Prince of Wales. At the time, he was also heir to the throne, but died in 1612, aged just 18. We're now coming onto a housing estate, and the majority of the rest of the drive is just residential. One reason why Otley is so big is all to do with World War I. After the war, there was a general shortage of housing in Britain, and much of it was crowded slums. Here in Otley, the local council prepared one of the first subsidised housing schemes in Britain, which began with populating the relatively open land to the north of the town and the River Wharf in 1920. These days, that area is known as Newall, which has kept growing ever since. The 1920s housing went hand in hand with a sewer drainage system and electric lighting instead of gas on Otley streets. By 1955, there were more than 1,000 council houses in Otley, and private housing was also expanded during the post-war period. Many of the homes would go on to house workers in the local industries, but those were in decline by the 1980s. Industries that have been lost in Otley include the printing machine works, which were made famous by the Wharfedale Press. The last factory closed its doors for the final time in 1983. The Waitrose store I mentioned earlier now stands on one of the old printing works sites. Of course, the old mills have since gone too. On the south bank of the wharf, you'll find the Otley Mills complex, built mostly between 1857 and 1916. My plan here was to go and see some of the old mill buildings which still stand. However, that plan was to be scrapped because access to them is mostly private. I can tell you a bit about what we would have found though. In 2018, Andrew Hillis Properties invested £2 million in the site with the view to turning it into a showpiece industrial estate. The work involved creating 19 industrial units in a variety of sizes on a 5.5 acre plot. As of 2020, more than 70% of the available space had been let. Maybe Otley's industrial fortunes are on the rise again. So now we're in the cemetery, which was a little bit awkward to try and find a parking space for, but here we are anyway. And we begin this little section in front of these mortuary chapels.
Well, this is the back of them.
The back of them, yes. There is an archway here. We can walk through between them. I can show you what this looks like. You'd be forgiven for mistaking this for a church from a distance, wouldn't you?
Flashing off the roof here.
Some what, sorry? Flashing off the roof. Yeah, it's fallen down. So let's go through this archway. Oh, there's a wreath here.
For Charlie.
Charlie Turner, whoever he may have been.
Or she.
Well, yes, because it is a...
I think it's for my grandma, that says at Christmas, I think.
Ah, okay, so it's been there a while.
Not sure.
Okay, so apparently there's some Commonwealth war graves in here, so says Nikki.
I can see one over there.
And there's one over there, so let's go across to that and have a look at it.
Yeah.
Otley Cemetery was opened in 1862. There are 54 war graves here, and they're scattered throughout the site. We didn't find them all, but among them were RAF pilots, engineers, craftsmen, and soldiers from both World Wars. The cemetery is quite extensive, and there are many modern sections which still have space. The sandstone chapels we've just seen are a little worse for wear. They date from around 1870 and they're both Grade 2 listed. You can see a few things from this cemetery too. That there is Gallows Hill. It gets its name from its use as a site of execution as far back as Anglo-Saxon times. The last execution took place in 1614. There's a nature reserve there now. Most of the reserve is situated on the sludge beds of an old sewage works. Right next to the cemetery on Cross Green is Otley Rugby Club, founded in 1865. They're nicknamed the Zebras thanks to their black and white jerseys. Our final destination is Chevin Forest Park, which meant we needed to drive back through the town. On the way, we passed the Maypole again, and these folk dancers had appeared at it. We stopped for a moment to catch them. So this is the last part of today's video, and it's to do with a sculpture trail. Now I don't know how many sculptures we'll find in here because we're not going to walk the entire distance. We've walked a long way already today. So we'll see what we can find. We'll walk a short way into the forest and see how many of them we can come across. Chevin Forest Park is located either side of East Chevin Road. The Chevin itself is part of the park. Blanketed in managed woodland, it has a wealth of wildlife, and the whole park was designated as a local nature reserve in 1989. There are 9 sculptures along the sculpture trail. We only found 2 of the 9 because the trail runs for some 2.5 kilometres. The first one is this mountain bike with a compass and a climber. The sculptures gradually work back through time. The trail ends with a 7-foot caveman holding a stone-tipped spear and a Gonia-type fossil, which reminds us that the Chevin was once covered by water. Now, for a long time, local residents had no idea who created all of these sculptures. However, the mystery came to an end in 2010 when Leeds City Council revealed that they were the work of none other than Shane Green. Boy, does that man love Otley. So we're recording this outro on Nikki's phone because my GoPro battery has now died. My other battery, my other spare one, is in the car, and I really wanted to do the wrap up here because it's so peaceful and tranquil. If Nikki just pans her phone around, you'll see what I mean. The best place to end this video. And my phone is also dead too. That just shows you how long we've been here and how much we've done. So yeah, Otley, that's it folks. I know I can't cover all of this place because it's so big. I mean, we were still finding things that we hadn't seen on the main walk around as we were driving out of the town to come here. So that just shows you how big and how involved this place is.
Yeah, and it's a very engaging town as well because everywhere, literally everywhere you turn, there is something to see.
Pretty much,
there?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, there is, yeah. So yeah, that's another one down in Leeds. There's only 2 left now. Those are Alwoodley and Wetherby, and those will be coming out next week and the week after, and that'll be Leeds finished. But for now, this has been the town of Otley, and I've been the Village Idiot, and that's been Mrs. Village Idiot, who's off camera at the moment, but gave you a thumbs
I'm being
up.
camera woman.
Yeah, well, you kind of have to be. And we're out.